So I finally got the new parts I ordered. I'll show you what I did order, and then we're going to start putting it back together. So here are the parts I bought. I bought this part here, comes with the spring, the whole thing for the rope, and that was part number 498144 from Briggs. I also bought this part here. It's the cap. It was all damaged as you saw in the previous video, and that is part number 692299. The last parts I got are the two paws, and they're part number 281505S, and they come as a kit. There's two in the bag. Now before I start putting these parts back in, I'm going to melt a hole on the new part here. The reason why I'm going to make a hole here is so that I can insert the rope in there and wind the spring up so the rope goes back in the recoil. Now to do this, I'm just going to grab my propane torch. Just going to heat up a screwdriver about the size of the rope. Now I'm going to melt one hole here and make sure it's on this side here. And you want to go just deep enough so that the rope will fit in there perfectly, and that should do. Now once it's cooled off, I'm going to cut off the burrs here, but I do it because it's much easier when you go to wind the spring. The older machines used to come with a hole on the rewind mechanism here, but I find the new machines don't. Now before I install my new rope, I usually melt the edges here, and then just make it nice and pointy here. Watch it, don't burn your fingers, but I like to roll it nice and smooth so it doesn't fray. You can stick your rope in the hole here. It's going to come out inside. Then make a knot at the end here. Just a quick knot like this should do. And pull it really hard to make sure it's on there really tight. Once you've got the rope in, you want to roll it counterclockwise. And I'm using a rope number 5 for this. And I'm going to put the end of the rope in the notch that I made earlier. Now at this point here, what you need to do is you need to align the notch here on the spring to the notch right here, right beside that shaft, as you can see here. You can also put a bit of grease down there if there isn't any. Now take your thing, stick it on top, and you're going to know you've got it in the notch there properly, because when you go to turn counterclockwise, it's going to spring back. And that's how you know it's in there properly. Now we're going to install the paws. You want this shaft to go in the little plastic pin here, and just insert them in there like that. Just going to sit there like that. Now I'm going to put a bit of lithium grease inside here. The reason why I'm using lithium grease is because it's not going to stiffen up when it's cold out. And you might as well stick a little bit here where the shaft is. Now I'm also going to put a bit of lithium grease on the bolt that goes here, because there's a lot of wear and tear right at this section here. And now stick it back in there. And now you want to tighten up the screw here. Now before you reinstall the plastic cap here, make sure you've taken off the little metal ring from the old one and put it on this one, and put your screw in here. You can lubricate that and then stick it on here. And now tighten up the screw. Now to wind up the rope, you're going to have to go get it from under here. Make sure it's in the hole that we melted earlier with the screwdriver here. Stick your rope in there, just like that, and now turn counterclockwise approximately 4 turns. That's going to tighten up the spring so that when we crank the machine over, the rope's going to go back in the recoil. So now I'm going to turn 4 turns counterclockwise. 4. Now you need to insert the rope in the exit hole. It's going to come out the other side here, and then pull on the rope. Now if you find that the rope goes back in good like that, all the way, and it's springy enough, then you know the spring is tight enough. If it doesn't go back in enough, then you need to turn it one more turn counterclockwise, and then it should go back in properly. It works good here, and I've got it wound 4 turns. Now grab your handle and insert the rope in there. You want to grab it at the other end here. And you want to make a little knot here. Just a simple knot like that will do. What I like to do is tighten up my knots with pliers, then I know they're really tight. Then let it go back in like that, and that's good. Pull the cord over, the paws should come out like that. If they work like that, you know you've done it right. At this point here, we're ready to reinstall the whole recoil and the shroud on the machine. Now when you grab your recoil and pull the rope like that, the rope should come in by itself, no problems. To reinstall the recoil, just basically stick it back in. Now you're going to have to lift the carburetor a bit so you can get the recoil down there. And now you want to make sure that the 3 holes line up. One here, one down here, and one there. First of all, we're going to tighten up the carburetor with the E-Torx. And make sure to tighten them up evenly on both sides. So now I'm going to stick the bolts for the actual shroud. And the last one goes right underneath the carb here. So now I'll make sure all 3 bolts are tightened up. Next I'm going to reinstall the plastic cover here. I'm going to go over here, and you want these holes to line up over here. And also this hole here's got to line up. And there's a little bolt that goes over here. Now up here there's a plastic cover that goes there. You want this part here, the on-off part, to go by the switch. Then there's 2 little Torx bolts or 5/8. I'm going to tighten these up with the Torx screwdriver, and it's a number T25. And don't forget the one above the electric starter. Next thing I'm going to put on is the starter gear cover. Just a little plastic cover that goes over here. And there's 2 little 7mm bolts that hold that. Now back to the carb side, we're just going to stick the screen back on here like that. And now there's 2 small spacers that go on the studs here. Don't forget to put those in there. Now I'm going to put the plastic cover that goes over the carb. And you want to line up the 2 studs in the holes on the cover here and push it down. And now there's 2 10mm nuts that go there. So now I've got the blower back down like that. It's going to be easier to finish up the top cover here. You want to line up this cover with the 2 holes here. You want to make sure that this cover slides in to the lip here on the bottom cover we just put on. So now at this point you need to install these 2 bolts. Now once you've got these tightened up, we're going to put the choke knob. You want to line up the notches here to the notches there. You can see it's wider on one side, so I'm going to put the wide part and just basically push it down. And there it's in. It's clicked in there. You can turn it now. That's for the choke. Now we're going to give it a quick start to make sure our pull cord works. If you run stuff in your garage, make sure to open up your doors. So I got my front door open and my back door open here. I'm also going to install a fan at some future date on the wall to suck out the exhaust. So I must say that's one of the hardest recoils I've ever repaired. Be patient if you attempt to do this job. Be very careful because a lot of the parts are made of plastic. It's not my favorite job, but if you take your time, it's all going to go well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in my next videos.